Hi, this is David Chen. Today we're talking about comic grading. What's comic grading? Comic grading is actually send a comic to a third-party grading company for them to grade it, your comic, and they encapsulate in this hard case. And why do you want to do that? To do a comic grading, the main point is actually for several reasons. Not all of them. Some people may have their other criteria to do that. It's actually buy or sell or long-term collection. When you have a comic graded, it's in a hard case like this, so it's harder to damage, and the inside comic is actually sealed against element. So as long as you put in a shady area, like other comic storage, actually lasts for a long time. So it won't get yellow or damaged as easily. When a buyer or seller of a comic, they see this, for example, this one is 9.8. They see this 9.8. They know this comic is in almost perfect condition. Sometimes you can get 10, but most of the time, if you get 9.8, it will be very near perfect, and so it will be easier to buy or sell. They just say this comic is 9.8, so they know it's being graded by a third party. And when you, for example, when you go to eBay, sometimes the seller say near mint condition, but everybody's near mint definition is different. So when you buy a 9.8, they know it's actually near mint by a third grading company, not just the seller. So it's safer for transaction. And because this is hard case, you can store it for a long time. You know your comic won't get damaged as easily as just putting a board or in a bag and putting a box somewhere. Sometimes something happens, your comic still get damaged, or something bend a little bit, your comic is not worth as much, or could be other issues, environmental issues that could damage a comic. If it's in a graded comic like this, it won't be as effective as other way of damaging it. There are actually 3 or 4 different companies. I'm not just talking about a few big ones. There's CGC, there's PGX, and there's CBCS. I personally didn't try CBCS yet, but I tried CGC, and I tried PGX, which you can see my PGX review from before. I will put in the link. Also, I will have some CGC comic come in. Let's talk about CGC. CGC is actually a very big company. They're part of a certified collection group or collection society. They also have a department or the company that deal with coins or paper. And sometimes, depends on some certain situation, they will do some magazine. They will grade those items, the coins, mint coin, and they will have a printed paper. That's a note paper. That's mean money. They will have grading people for that, grading section for that. But in this case, we're talking about comic, and it's their comic section. It's a fairly large, very important for the comic people. Because if you go to eBay or any third-party comic place, they see a comic like this, and they see points. They immediately know there's certain criteria they try to grade their comic on. So it'll be fairly fair, even though everybody have their own opinion about certain grade on the comic, but usually the graders will follow criteria. And the CGC, to get it graded, there's several ways to doing it. Number one, it's you can submit to them directly if you're in their member. Last time I checked, the membership fee 1 year is $150, but you get $150 credit. And if you can get more advanced, that's around $299. You also get $150 off the $299. but the difference is you get free bonus items and greater notes, which is very beneficial. For CGC, you can, if you're a member, you can actually apply grading online, and you just need to send your comic there safely. Once they grade it, they will send it back. The process is pretty easy, and if you're not a member, you still can send it to them, but you need to go through a certain certified shop or people to send. They will send it to the CGC for you, and once they come back to that person or shop, you're gonna get your comic that way. And depending on the situation, they might need to charge you a little bit, because if you're not a member, you cannot send the comic directly to them. And even though CGC have online form, but that's for if you're a member, and the membership fee is $150 above, so it's a little bit pricey if you just do it casually. And for grading, there are several different levels. Let's take a look what kind of level they have. For to grade this one here, for example, you got the modern, value, economy, standard, express, and walkthrough. And for this modern, it's right now it's $20 a book. Take 20 days, and that's not including shipping to them or shipping back or weekend. It's business days. And for value, that's anything after anything before 1975. And the reason to do that is for the value package. You have to send 15 books or above or more, and it's $27 a book. And right now it's 50 days of waiting time, and that is not including your shipping to or from or weekend. So you pretty much looking about 2 months and around 2.5 months. So that's a long time. And for standard, actually let's go economy. Economy is $38, so it's not as cheap as value. That's also for before 1975 mostly, and it's 35 days. So you are paying a little bit extra per book to get a little bit less stay. But it is for design for older books, so it will take longer, and due to the fact some of the older books need to be handled carefully, because it is around 30 years or older books. Then you got standard, which is specifically it's a 15 business day for $65, or express $100 per book, 6 days turnaround, which is you can get your book about a week and a half. And you got walkthrough. And the walkthrough, the difference is you can just go to them and they charge 3%. So if your book was like say $5,000, they charge like $150 or above. And so for people who have a really expensive book, they don't want to deal with shipping, this might be a beneficial. So you can, if you want to sell that book of let's say you have Action Comic #1, you will want to go through the walkthrough, because that's a lot of money that you're sending to comic people for grading, and you don't want to deal with in a mailing, say somebody stole the comic or not. Right now, let's talk about what kind of label you have for comic grading. There's a standard one over here. That's a blue one, which is a regular normal comic. There's no special signature or items on it. It will be a blue label. And for CGC, they got a special yellow series, which is signature. What's a signature series? It just says, it will say signed by certain person on that day, because they gonna have people on site verify its actual signature from that person on that date. That's why they put on it. And they also have a special series for Stan Lee, because Stan Lee is very important person in comics, so they have make a special label for that. So if you get Stan Lee signature series, you can see a face, Stan Lee's comic face over here. That's their comic series. What happens if you have signature or issue, somebody write on the cover, but they cannot verify is who? They will give you the blue series. What's blue series? It just say CGC qualified grade, which is they just say somebody write on the cover. They don't know who, and they didn't verify. They don't have signature verification paper, so they don't know who. But in this case, just somebody write down L. Simon as known as Spawn 97. They don't know who, so they just say it's qualified for this grade, because for a comic to have some writing on it, they just say physically it's qualified for this point, but because somebody write on it, they could consider as damaged or defective, because they cannot verify it's actually person, famous person, or that's a person's name on it. So they only say it's qualified for this grade. It's not actually that grade. So it's very important, because sometimes some older comic will have a date stamp, or somebody have a pull out date for their comics from the comic stores, or some other reason. So they will have this kind of issue. Usually qualified grade, depending on the situation, might worth the same or less or more, depending on the situation. But as a CGC, they have to put on, say it's just qualified for the grade, because the comic is still in nice physical condition instead of perfect condition like the blue label. So they have to put on that one there. So in summary, for CGC, it's a little bit pricier. You still have membership fee, and for each order you send in, you need to pay $8 processing fee, and their shipping fee return is not that cheap. So it's a slightly more expensive than other company. But the main point of go through this CGC is they are the most qualified collection people that's available right now. It's their comic collection society, and they do have other branches of coins and paper, so they know their grading, and their other criteria is very good in most of the time. So it's very highly qualified. Let's talk about PGX Grading Company. Who are the PGX Grading Company? They started with a group of people who saw CGC doing so well in starting a company in year 2000, grading all those comics and standardize everything. So they started their own grading company in year 2002. And since they don't have the benefits of Certified Collection Society, that's a big company who handling the coins and paper, and now with the comic, so they are fairly smaller company, so they don't have all those online submitting with the membership items, and also they don't have a lot of benefits of a standardized way of grading. They still follow the standard comic grading points, but they just not as strict as CGC. So between year 2002 to now, they run to a little bit issue of quality control. But I think nowadays the quality is pretty much solved. So everything is as good as CGC. Some people still don't trust as much as CGC on PGX graded comics, but I think everything works pretty good. You still have hardcover. The comics still graded pretty good. Encapsulate very nice. The big difference is they don't have membership, and they don't have online submitting. So even though CGC also have, you can download the submitting form, but PGX, you have to do that. That's the only way. You download the form, fill it out, then package together with the comic, then send to PGX so they can do a grading. Then after a while, right now it's around 20 days turnaround without weekend, without shipping to or from date, 20 days to get your comic back. That's still a pretty good time compared to the CGC. Sometimes they will miss the deadline. And also, let's talk about CBCS. Who are the CBCS? It's they started a few years ago. They are actually the people from CGC. After a while working there, they started their own company because there's a specific company structure they don't like. So they started their own company, but everything's still following a CGC type of format. You still got membership, you still got similar day and time, and big difference is you need to check online to see if you can submit the same way. So that will be a major difference, because you can think CBCS is an off branch of CGC, and people still trust, because those people are from CGC. They do trust the CBCS people more than the PGX. But from my point of view, doesn't matter as much. But that's just my personal point of view. Everybody have their own point of view. But a big reason for people to collecting is still to almost guarantee the condition of the comic and encapsulate it, and when you buy or sell, you will know exactly what's the grade gonna be, because there is a standard which I posted right here. You can take a look, and if you go look online, and there's several different companies that are doing auctions. Most of their comic is graded comic because it's more trustworthy. So let's say action comic number 1. How do you know the quality is good and legitimate and original? They go to make sure, they go to CGC, have them graded, pay the extra fee, but the buyer will know it's a correct one. And then there's several other companies that will only sell graded comics only because they want their buyer or the bidder to know exactly what they're getting. So it's very important for this reason, people grading their own comic. But because of all those fee, all those shipping fee, membership fee, and sometimes liability of transports and third-party issues, most of the time you really only want to grade your comic if it's the one you want to collect yourself and you don't want to sell to other people, or you're selling at really high price that will cover the price of grading a comic, shipping a comic, membership fee, handling fee, and all those issues, and the time you missed during those time, because CGC might take a little bit of while, and sometimes you just don't know when it's gonna be back. So if you're in a rush, you might go to PGX, but for most of the time, to get your comic graded, you might want to think about, are you making those extra money if you want to buy or sell this comic to get it graded, or sell as raw comics. Okay, this is David. Next time, I will have a bunch of CGC comic graded and come back in, and I will review those ones for you. Thank you. Have a good day.